Hi there. I hope that we are broadcasting on our public Facebook page, Granny Rocks.
Yeah, I certainly hope so, since this is the Granny Rocks show.
It really is. And I am Beth Green, otherwise known as Granny Rocks.
And I'm James Maynard, otherwise known as Sweet Baby James.
And tonight I'm going to tackle a topic very dear to my heart, which is when can disappointment be a blessing? For example, I just want to say before James goes on that our heat is not going on. Now, that is a bit of a disappointment because it's cold in here, but that means that we're not going to fall asleep during the show.
Well, there you are, wide awake and alert.
And the noise isn't going to come on. So anyway, Sweet Baby James, would you like to introduce our show? And I hope that somebody shows us some comments so that we know that we're broadcasting.
Yes. Well, you've come to the Granny Rocks show, and this is our opportunity every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. to share together, to experience Granny's wit, her wisdom, and her uncommon sense. And afterward, if you are so desirous of doing so, we do have a discussion group that is led by Granny. But details are on the Facebook site there if you'd like to look into that. So without further ado, here's Granny.
Oh, wonderful. And Tracy said, sending love to you both. That means we're broadcasting. Thank you. And Catalina said hi and sent a heart. So we've gotten 2 hearts already. But the directions on how to join the group are not on the Facebook post. So I hate to say that. But anyway, if you're interested in joining the group, let me know. Write to me. So in the meantime, I want to talk about this disappointment thing. Because there's a lot in life that's extremely disappointing. Oh, wait a minute. The heat just turned itself on.
It's a miracle.
Look at this. It's a miracle. Yeah, it's just that it means it's like 50 degrees now, and it's decided to turn on. I don't know what to say. So, it's a strange thing. We have been looking at different places to move to. We sold our house. Any of you have been hearing about this. Boo-hoo. And we are closing escrow on Monday, and that means it will officially not be ours anymore, though the owners are letting us stay for a while. And it's upsetting, and we're trying to find the place to live that we really love. And so far, we've had disappointment after disappointment after disappointment. Well, the first way that disappointment can be a blessing is it's a directional signal. It means no-go. For example...
And it's right not to have a no-go.
That's right.
It's better not to have a no-go.
Because disappointment is often just enlightenment. It's like you get to know what's so, that you don't want to be so. That's why it's disappointing, because you want it to be some other way. So let's say, for example, you're in love with a guy or a woman or a non-binary person, and they're not in love with you, or they're not showing that they're in love with you. So that can be very disappointing, but at least you know that they're really not in love with you, right?
Right.
Otherwise, you go along and, God, you could get married to them and never know that they're not in love with you. Maybe they married you because your parents have a lot of money, or because the guy didn't have any place to live. He's sleeping on the street, so marrying you is a way. So to find out that the guy doesn't love you is like, wow, what a blessing is that, right? You see what I'm saying? So it's the same thing if you're looking for a house in a place where you don't fit. For example, finding out that you don't fit is a great thing. And Todd said, hi, Granny and Sweet Baby James, and hi, Dad.
Todd.
So we had a number of disappointing experiences today, but now this leads me to my second point about it being a blessing. See, we could say that these disappointments are telling us that we shouldn't move to this particular place, but that may not necessarily be true. Because sometimes, don't you do this, like you have a disappointment and then you exaggerate how important it is, and you don't consider any other aspects, or, for instance, maybe this aspect of the town doesn't work, but some other one does, but it's like, oh my God, I'm so anxious to get an answer that I'm just looking for the answer. So if it's disappointing, it's like, so this is the other side of it being a blessing. It could be a curse if we don't look at things objectively, right? So if we get really melodramatic about this, oh, we were disappointed in its cottage cheese industry, by the way. I don't know that it has a, where we are. I'm making, a silly light thing. Okay. But that doesn't mean that we would be disappointed in its silver crafting industry. And really, I should be going into silver crafting and not into cottage cheese making. You see what I'm saying? But, we have this big emotion. Oh, my God, I'm so disappointed. Or we...
Not to mention feeling rejected.
Totally. And then let's go back to our in love thing. Okay, so let's say we're disappointed because we discovered that the guy or the woman or whoever it is hasn't invited us to the school prom. Well, does that mean that they don't love us, or does that just mean that they haven't invited us to the school prom because they can't afford to go to the prom, or they're busy that night, making a living, or who knows? So you may be disappointed, but we may be misinterpreting because of the emotionality around disappointment. We can be interpreting something to mean something that it doesn't mean. So we have to be really careful about that. Well, I know I was going to talk about the blessings, but what the blessing in that is, it makes you have to think clearly. Let's say, oh, we had these great experiences today. We could have been like overwhelmed by a tsunami of, we really need to move here, and maybe this isn't the right place for us. Maybe there's a better place. So if we don't get the disappointment, we don't think. We feel like pulled along. Oh, yeah, like I married him because he was the first guy who proposed, right? Or he thought I was good looking, or whatever it was. So you see, now we can turn that around too and make the disappointment a blessing by making it an avenue to become more conscious about what we're thinking about. Now, I have another idea, and I want you guys to be thinking about this topic as I'm talking tonight. I have another idea about this, how being disappointed can be a blessing. Supposing you want this guy to be in love with you because he's going to be a doctor. And you were told by your mother, now this is from my era, when that was, over 70 years ago, right? Considerably over 70 years ago. It's like, oh, you should marry a doctor because they're stable, and they're going to bring esteem, and there's going to be whatever. And so if he's not showing an interest in you or in me, maybe that's a blessing, because maybe I'm going towards that relationship for the wrong reason. Now I'm going to bring it back to the reality that we are dealing with, which is trying to find a place to live that is right for us. So we had two huge disappointments about this place where we are right now today. I don't want to say what they are, because then you get a negative feeling about the place that is just based on this tiny little experience. But that means, because I was looking for something from this community. I wanted the community to provide me with a certain level of conversation in a certain place that would make me feel like, oh, God, I've landed somewhere. We've moved away, and now I have this. Or as I spoke about, I don't know if it was last week. I think it was last week, when I talked about the fact that sometimes you lose something and it's irreplaceable and you can't replace it, so you look for something else to love. So I've been looking at this place as a source for me of being able to play the piano live. Well, probably that's not going to happen here. So, I mean, things can happen just based on the information I found out. So I feel really crushed. Oh, God, that's it. I can't move here. But what it does, and this goes back to the doctor thing too, because you find out that the guy you've been hankering after really isn't going to be a doctor at all. He's just saying that to keep his parents happy. And then you say, oh God, I'm so disappointed. He's not going to be a doctor. So maybe, actually, what I'm realizing is that I have to decide on whether I love the place for itself. And I wouldn't have gotten to that if I hadn't been disappointed that it wasn't going to serve me in some way. See, so many of us are in that egoic state, right? I really love him? Then I love him no matter what. He's going to be homeless because he wants to be an artist, or he's going to be traveling because that's what his passion is, or whatever it is. And I get all disappointed because, oh, he's not going. Let's say I think, oh my God, this is going to be the perfect parent for my 2.3 children. And then I discovered that he's a humanitarian. He wants to travel the world with Doctors Without Borders or something. Then I actually have to ask myself whether I want him or I want a father for my children, and which is more important. Now I'm not saying that it's not okay to want to have children. I'm saying that to attach that to whether or not you want somebody is to say that having children with somebody stable is more important to me than having this person. Now, I have a perfect right to that, right? Nobody says that that's a wrong thing. But what I am saying about it is that it's showing me where my head is at. So, and that's the most important. That is the blessing of the century, always, is when something is showing you what you're thinking and, what's going on with you, right? So back to the town. So I realize that I've been looking at this town as a means to an end. Okay, can I play the piano live in this town in person? I mean, when COVID is over. We're not talking about, doing anything bad. And it looks like it's a no. Well, supposing it was yes. Supposing there was a venue, a great venue where I could play the piano. And we uprooted ourselves and we came to this town. And then suddenly, after we've moved, the venue closes. Or they have new management. They don't want me anymore. They don't like my music. Right? Or I haven't brought in enough revenue. Or whatever it is. It's like all of a sudden, I realized that having been disappointed in what I wanted from the place, or from the guy, or from the job, or from my country, or from my friends, or my students, or whatever, what I want from them doesn't have anything to do with whether or not I love them. And do I want to be in a place that I love? And so we are left, and we haven't even gotten to this discussion yet, because we just came running home. And Sweet Baby Jane's somehow managed to throw together dinner. So we had something to eat just before the show. And I'm not wearing it on my clothes. So I'm asking myself a different question. Even if I can't launch my music career here at the age of, I'll be 76
to
by
live
that time.
audiences, because you have
quite
a career going online.
Oh, I do. And I want to remind you guys, Thursday nights at 7 p.m. Pacific time, Dreams of Peace, improvisational piano. You'll hear me tomorrow night, and Todd will be doing the broadcasting for us. It's a long story, but you need a certain kind of internet and bandwidth and everything to do it live. So yes, I have, and I love my audience. So how do I know that I'm supposed to change that anyway? Maybe we're supposed to move to a place that we love, not worry about a venue that may or may not stay, and say like, yeah, okay, we are going, this is where we want to live. And because we love it here, because it feeds our soul, because we love the nature, or we love the people, or we love the weather. And if it was the weather, it would definitely not be this place, I can tell you. So, or because the weather changes. Oh my God, that's another thing. Climate change. You think you've got one kind of weather and then you get another kind of weather. And oh, I hate it now because I really only moved here for the weather. So, anyway, find out what the essence of the thing is that you're wanting and see if you really want it, if you really, really love it. So even though there may be some disappointments along the way, that may be a blessing because it brings enlightenment. That the disappointments help us to see ourselves more clearly, helps us to make better choices, helps us to be in reality. And because without being in reality, which is part of enlightenment, right, then we're flying blind because we're deluding ourselves, right? So disappointment can very well be a blessing because it might enlighten us. And I have something else to say about that. Another relationship between disappointment and enlightenment, which is kind of the other way around. I just can't remember what I was about to say, so just give me a moment. Oh, yes. When we have been disappointed about things and we look back and we realize that they weren't good for us, we realize that something that God told me years ago, or whatever that universal intelligence is that I call God sometimes I don't, it said that enlightenment is the antidote to disappointment. So I've been talking about how disappointment is truly a blessing, but I also want to share something about how we can truly deal with the pain of disappointment, is to realize that there's something that we may not have been seeing or thinking about. For instance, I think I can speak for you on this too, James, is that, we're very disappointed that we're having to leave our home, which we love, and the mountains and the rivers and everything that we adore. But maybe next year, one of us is going to become extremely ill and we're going to need medical attention, and we don't know it.
Yeah, and our current home, which will end being our current home soon, is a 100-mile round trip to the nearest town with the nearest specialized medical help.
Right, and even more now. So, hey guys, being disappointed sometimes is because we're ignorant, because we're not realizing that we really need something else now, that we need it more, and that it's going to help us in some way that we had not imagined. So if we want to overcome our disappointment, we open ourselves up to whatever wisdom there is in the universe that tells us that this is the right thing. We were looking at a house today. We were driving by a house that we had thought about making an offer on, and it got picked up by somebody else right away. And we drove up there today. And oh my God, I loved that place. And I thought, oh my God, we should have offered on that place. I'm going to kick myself, And then I looked at the road and I realized that was going to be an icy road in the winter. And we're old. We're trying to get away from stress, right?
That would have been very, very stressful.
Very stressful. So, from an enlightened perspective, I can see that letting go of something that I held very dear is incredibly important for us to realize that if we think it through, or we just wait long enough, we'll find out that it wasn't for our highest good. Todd said, this is a very good, sober discussion. I am enjoying it.
Thank you, Todd.
We are so happy to hear that. We haven't been having many comments, and we're ready to talk to you live. But I think I'm pretty much coming to the end of my topic for tonight. And James, is there something you would like to share?
Well, the topic of relationships has been a big area of disappointments and blessings. And the blessing of being with you is because of the disappointments that I've had along the way that freed me up to be with you.
Ah, that's right. If you were with somebody else, you wouldn't be with me.
If I already have a car parked in the garage, how am I going to get a new one in there?
That's right. Thank you so much. Lizzie says, I agree with Todd. Oh, I am so glad to hear this. This, as usual, is coming out of our direct moment-by-moment experience of life, which we get to look at, examine, and try to bring to you any kernel of enlightenment or wisdom or understanding that we're getting through going through the difficulties of life. If we had perfect lives, we wouldn't have anything to say because nobody else does. So, we would have nothing to say that would be relevant to anybody. And this is where there's always grist for the mill around here. There's always some crisis going on that we can deal with. So I want you to please share this program. Like it, love it. You can always put in your comments later. If you're not on live, I will answer you via the chat. But also please share, because very often I talk about things that are hard to hear, hard to think about. And even though they're sort of common sense and obvious when you think about them, we often don't. So it's so wonderful when you share these programs and with people who might actually need to hear this. I am sure that many of you now are going through tremendous disappointments on every level, whether it's your health or your relationships or, your destiny or your career or anything else. And I hope that what we have said tonight will help you to find more peace and more awareness. And Catalina said, this has been true in my life. I have had a lot of disappointment in the past few years, but I'm doing things that I never thought I would be able to do before.
Bravo.
Bravo, yes. Thank you so much to our wonderful audience. We love you. I cannot tell you how much your support means to us. When we see all those likes, growing up during the week, or when we see you online, or we get your comments, we see your shares, it gives us a boost. It gives us a purpose. So if I can't play the piano for the world in person, I can play it for the world on the internet, just as I can connect to you on the internet. So thank you, and we'll see you next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time. And we can see you tomorrow at 7 p.m. Pacific time, where I will be playing the piano for you and hopefully give you a big lift to your souls. So good night, and thank you.
Bye-bye for now.